really help society, you should stay home. Personally, I don't think anyone's actually ready to go out and face life.
We cover San Diego arts and culture. Just waiting for a couple of
By golly. Does it have historical significance?
Was this a pleasant thing?
Does it have political significance? By golly.
loud enough? Take over shit, that's right.
Why did you come here?
Because I tried to commit suicide.
Why did you come here?
Because I tried to commit suicide.
Maybe 5 more minutes. Dora, how you doing? The Creative Buzz Podcast, representing art and culture. Featuring an interview with Lourans Mikhail, local San Diego artist. Get started in a couple minutes. This is also music of Lourans with Lou Campanella, aka Lourans Mikhail, on the beat.
You know how I feel.
Thanks everybody for coming by the live podcast. This is Creative Buzz Podcast, a glimpse into the local arts hive mind. We cover San Diego arts and culture every Wednesday at 7 p.m. I'm your host, Johnny Tran, co-owner of Thumbprint Gallery. The music you were just listening to was Lou Campanella, aka Lourans Mikhail, our featured interview today. And as I said, I'm Johnny Tran, co-owner of Thumbprint Gallery, sponsor of this podcast, founded in 2009. Thumbprint Gallery curates monthly and pop-up art exhibitions featuring emerging, mid-career, and established artists with a focus on contemporary pop culture, nostalgia, urban art, and pop surrealism. The gallery seeks to provide an eclectic and engaging atmosphere to view art by bringing people together in appreciation and support of local, national, and international artists. And as you probably heard, San Diego is shutting down again, at least some bars, restaurants. We've decided to push back the opening of Thumbprint Gallery to August instead of July. So we're trying to stay afloat this time of shutdown, quarantine, pandemic. Any donation will help us do that and help us continue supporting the arts. Please consider making a donation of any amount to our PayPal, info@thumbprintgallery.com. Venmo is at Thumbprint Gallery. Also, check out our current online art exhibition, The Complexity of Light, a solo art show by Carlo Miranda. And tonight we're going to be talking about some interesting stuff. Local San Diego artists are continuing to express their support for Black Lives Matter and social justice causes. Cultural battle sparks around murals commemorating George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and social justice. And we will be talking about that, how that affects the arts, and how that affects the local scene. Also, Confederate statues being taken down across the country. We talk about what this means for the arts. That's what's going on tonight. How's everybody doing? What's up, Joe? Let's check out the messages real fast. Let me not get back to it. Oh my God. This guy wants me to rap. Hey, Sora. Lourans Mikhail, I love this Nina Simone sample. Well, yeah, that's your sample, dude. Hey, Aaron. King Siam, throw up your hands like you up front at the protest. Lourans Mikhail, that Lee statue got taken down the alley. Oh, that Lee statue. Oh, okay. All right. Right on. All right, so let's get started. Local artists are continuing to express support for the Black Lives Matter movement. One of those is our featured interview artist today, Lourans Mikhail. He started the True Roots clothing brand, which we'll be talking about later. And he'll be donating all profits to nonprofits advocating for Black Lives Matter and other social equality causes. So I'm going to show you an image of some shirts that he has for sale. All profits donated directly to Black Lives Matter. T-shirt right here. I'll show you guys on Instagram. Sorry. Yeah. Check this out. I'll be dropping this link and all the sources that I mentioned in the podcast, in the Facebook event page. If you need to contact me to get any of these sources, links, information, just send me an email at thumbprintgallery@gmail.com. Send me a direct message, Instagram or Facebook. And he's got another one right here. Check this shirt out. It says, "My skin is," how does it say? Well, anyways, this 100% proceeds will be going to a nonprofit that benefits the African American community and or people of color. And this is what Lourans says: "I'm trying to keep it local to the San Diego, LA area, but if I have to reach out to the ones in the," okay. Well, anyways, yes, 100% proceeds goes to a nonprofit. Yeah, so it says, "My skin color is not a threat to you," I think. My skin color is not a threat to anyone or anything. Enough is enough. That's what it says. Sorry. Yeah. All right. All right. So, yes, so check that out. Please support if you can. And help out social justice movements and Black Lives Matter. Now, we have previously reported on the artists creating murals in support of Black Lives Matter in La Mesa in the aftermath of the protests there. Now, a group of artists is doing a similar effort in downtown San Diego. Wanted to bring some light to that. And they have created some murals at I think East Village. There you go. It's East Village downtown. Somewhere downtown. Yeah. Yeah, this is very cool. So go downtown and check those out. This is from a little information about it. This is from Pacific San Diego. A group of artists from across San Diego County recently painted more than 22 murals on boarded businesses in downtown San Diego to beautify the neighborhood and show solidarity for the Black Lives Movement. The colorful murals along East Street on businesses and Broadway hotels and restaurants depict images of George Floyd, a 46-year-old Black man who died after a white police officer in Minneapolis pressed his knee onto Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes. There are also messages calling for unity, peace, and justice for all other victims of police brutality. Businesses boarded up windows and doors with plywood in anticipation of planned protests in downtown. East Village resident Danny Avitia called on local artists to volunteer to paint murals downtown to beautify the neighborhood and to show support for BLM movement. The Paint the Town in Love with Love event organized by Avitia took place in downtown. Cool. All right. So yeah, that's what's going on downtown. San Diego artists and the arts community standing up for social justice. So that's why you should also support your local artists and musicians. I wanted to tell you guys about my second solo album that I am releasing next week on this podcast. And it'll be at 8 p.m. on this podcast. Here's the press release. Come celebrate the virtual release of my second solo album, The Great D Equalizer. We'll be live streaming the album premiere here on the Creative Buzz podcast on July 8th at 8 p.m. Feel free to check in early for the first part of the podcast starting at 7 p.m. FYI, Zoom and Facebook will sound better, but it's totally up to you. And the album cover art is by local artist Noni Cruzado. And you're already seeing it on Facebook, but yeah, I'll show you guys Instagram now. Hey, Derek, what's going on, man? Yeah, so next week, 8 p.m. Also, consider making a donation to our sponsor, Thumbprint Gallery. We're trying to keep the business going. We had to delay the reopening of the gallery 1 month. Any amount of a donation will help. PayPal's info at thumbprintgallery.com. Venmo is at Thumbprint Gallery. Check out our current online art exhibition, The Complexity of Light, a solo art show by Carlo Miranda, thumbprintgallery.com. Stick around for our featured interview with Lourans Mikhail. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Well, let's read some of these comments, yeah? Let's read some of these comments. All right. Yeah, King of Siam says, the takeover, the break's over, buddy. COVID gave the whole face of the planet a makeover. Trust me, face the music. The face mask is truly the symbol of the last dying gasps of the rule of the unruly. Wow. Dropping some raps, some spoken word. Lourans Mikhail says, Dylon, 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 indeed. King of Siam says, play some Nina Simone and leave me alone. Let me collect my thoughts like I'm the king of this throne. All right. King of Siam says, he's in the zone. Peace to Lou Campanella. Can't believe this beat is not butter. I'm greasing the skillet. King of Siam says, throw a peace sign and row beast. The least I can do for being a dope beast. I mean, a dope beast. Oh my God. Lourans Mikhail says, A.K. Campa Lucius Jones, the third. I don't know what that means. What's up, Joe? Lourans Mikhail says, self-love is the best love. Lourans Mikhail says, color is not a threat to anyone or anything. Enough is enough. Oh, right. That's what that t-shirt said. Hey, check out the t-shirt. True to the Roots clothing. King of Siam says, Johnny need glasses. 2050 vision. What's up, Derek? What's up, Carlo? Noni? What's going on? Oops. I don't know why you say I need glasses. I don't know what you mean by that. You won't? Yeah. All right. Where are we at? So there's a cultural battle going on right now in America surrounding the murals commemorating George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and social justice. As you can see, the recent social upheaval and protests against systemic racism across the country has inspired artists to create murals commemorating George Floyd and also supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and shedding light on the struggles of the social justice movements in America and worldwide. In this podcast and previous episodes of this podcast, we've highlighted some of the local artists who have created murals in support of social justice and commemoration of George Floyd. Unfortunately, it seems that supporting racial justice has sparked a backlash from, what do you know, racists who have taken to vandalizing these murals. One example of this is in Long Beach, just right down the way, where a George Floyd mural was actually vandalized by a local musician. And this local musician specializes in a certain kind of music. And you should get this. What kind of music is it? It's blues music of all genres. The hypocrisy is astounding. It's just crazy. Here are some pictures of the vandalized mural and also the restored mural. I'll show you guys on Instagram. Sorry about that. So this is the mural before it was vandalized in Long Beach. This is the vandal, okay, and Nirvana t-shirt. And here is the restoration. They did a pretty good job. Looks pretty good to me. I like it. It says, if not now, then when? Okay. So yeah, that's Long Beach. And we had like 10 people on Facebook, I swear, but now they're all gone. I don't know. Yeah, so that's just one, but there is another one I have here. Here's a picture of the George Floyd mural in Birmingham, Alabama, which is vandalized and is now being restored. Show you guys on Instagram real fast. All right. This is Alabama. Where? Birmingham, Alabama. So they're restoring that. Now, why this is important is that the murals, which are a commemoration of the righteous struggle of racial justice and social justice, they are also documentation and interpretation of history. Arts and culture have always played the role of documentation and interpretation in human society. And what artists depict can elevate certain values, such as social justice. And it's clear that the destruction of these murals is an attack not on just the aesthetics, but also the values of social justice and equality upon which this nation allegedly stands for. On the other hand, along with social justice, arts and culture can also elevate other not so great values such as white supremacy. And this is prevalent in the multitude of Confederate statues on display all over the country, which we will be talking about very soon. I do want to get to these millions of freaking comments on Instagram really fast. God, you guys. Arda Crusade says, what's up, Noni? Oops. Sorry about that. RBS tweet says, I want what Dell's drinking. Yeah, me too. Lourans Mikhail says, cause of the shirt, the Snellen chart. I don't know what that means. Oh, I see. Keo Simon says, you couldn't read the eye chart. Yeah, it was small on my computer screen, and I probably do need glasses. Lourans Mikhail says, country. I don't know what that means. Lourans Mikhail says, I saw that they fixed it. Yeah, they did fix it. They vandalized Tristan Eaton's MLK mural. He went back and painted Malcolm X. Oh, interesting. All right. Yeah, so that's what's up with that. Real fast, I need to let you guys know. Port of San Diego, Call to Artists. Got an opportunity for you guys. You should check it out. The Port of San Diego invites professional artists and artist groups to submit their qualifications for 2 public art projects as part of its District Percent of Art program and the Chula Vista Bayfront project. This is a unique opportunity for local and national artists to create innovative, engaging, permanent public artworks on port tidelands and enrich the experiences of visitors to the waterfront. I'll put the link in the Facebook event page. Send me an email, thumbprintgallery@gmail.com, or direct message on Facebook or Instagram if you need that. The Port of San Diego also invites professional artists and artist groups to submit their qualifications for the Harbor Park Call for Artists opportunity. Harbor Park will be built along the waterfront and beach areas surrounding soon-to-be constructed hotel and convention center complex. Our budget is $195K. Application deadline is Saturday, July 11th. So yeah, I'll be posting all that on the Facebook event page. Also, please consider making a donation to Thumbprint Gallery to help us continue supporting the arts. PayPal info@thumbprintgallery.com. Venmo is at Thumbprint Gallery. Check out the current online art exhibition, The Complexity of Light, a solo art show by Carlo Miranda. All right, so let's move on. So over the past weeks, in the wake of the recent protests against systemic racism and police brutality, there was a renewal of the movement to remove Confederate statues all over the country. This movement is not simply about aesthetics and artistic expression. It's about the interpretation of history and what values we as a society in America decide to commemorate. The Confederacy during the Civil War was a movement in defense of slavery and white supremacy. Those arguing that removing these white supremacy monuments is tantamount to erasing history are absolute hypocrites and are in fact the ones attempting to erase the egregious history of white supremacy and enslavement of Black people, which formed the economic backbone upon which this country has stood on and is still standing on to this day. And of course, our white supremacist piece of shit, President Trump, has issued an executive order that imposes over-the-top harsh punishments for damage to the monuments of white supremacy. What does that tell you? On the local level here in San Diego, there currently is a movement to remove a Confederate memorial at Mount Hope Cemetery. There's a petition online, which I will include in the Facebook event page. Of course, if you need any of these links, send me an email, thumbprintgallery@gmail.com, or send a direct message to Facebook or Instagram. So also, this is not the first time a movement to remove these monuments to white supremacy has erupted in San Diego. In 2017, actually, the city of San Diego removed a marker from Horton Plaza Park commemorating the Jefferson Davis Highway named after a Confederate leader. This is what the Southern Poverty Law Center has to say about Confederate statues and how the aesthetics and context of these statues commemorate the values of white supremacy. This is from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Hello.
Dealt with it. We haven't dealt with what the Confederacy meant, period.
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? I mean, people are always saying, oh, you're erasing history. Why are you doing this? We need to, acknowledge history. But the difference in acknowledging history and honoring or commemorating people who fought to preserve the institution, the dehumanizing institution of enslavement, is just beyond the pale. So what the Southern Poverty Law Center is saying is that these monuments and memorials should not be in public space at all. We certainly understand if people want to keep them in cemeteries, you want to have them in history museums, you want to keep them in archives, where some context can be added to these monuments. Most of these monuments, the vast majority of the monuments are to Robert E. Lee. He has the most, right? Coming in second would be Jeff Davis. But when you see these monuments, he's usually kind of raised up high on a horse. Imagine a little kid walking to the park or walking, to the courthouse with his grandmother and looking up and thinking this person is someone to be honored. And there's no context whatsoever about it. So I think that's what the Southern Poverty Law Center's report is really helpful in pointing out that whose heritage or what history are we really sharing? The history is there, but there's no context whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I think one of the other things that's really important about this report and the report that we did a couple years ago is most people, when they think of Confederate monuments, what they think to themselves is, okay, the war was fought, it ended in 1865, and they must have put the monuments up sort of shortly thereafter. But that, of course, is completely false. Yes. What happened was anytime black people asserted their civil rights in the post-Civil War era, that's when these things went up.
That's right.
So they're really, ultimately what these are is reminders to black people that white supremacy rules the land, whether it's the 20s Klan or during the Civil Rights Movement, right? And that, I think, makes it all the more important that we confront these things, document them, and frankly get rid of them.
No, I completely agree. And it's not even, black people didn't even have time to assert the civil rights right after Reconstruction, right? The South is establishing Jim Crow laws and reestablishing white supremacy, right? Or this notion of white supremacy, these reminders that, okay, you may be free, but white supremacy reigns in this country. And so, as you say, it appeared again during the modern American Civil Rights Movement. And then even today, Heidi, even as in the aftermath of our original report, we have states like Alabama where they're instituting legislation to protect these monuments. And we have a nearby county in Alabama that's going to erect a new one. I mean, it's ridiculous.
All right. So yeah, that's what the Southern Poverty Law Center has to say about the monuments, statues commemorating the Confederacy, slavery, colonialism, and white supremacy. Here is some audio from political analyst Sam Cedar on his podcast, The Majority Report. He does a good job in articulating how the Confederate statues and other statues and monuments are promoting the ideology of white supremacy and are actually erasing history.
The museum is making a decision that, like, this is problematic. This representation is problematic, so we're getting rid of it. And the idea that it's a destruction of history or that it is recasting some type of, the idea that these statues were divorced from, were just objectively true and did not reflect in the moment that they were installed an ideology is absurd. And the idea that that ideology is any more relevant or important to maintain through that iconography in that moment and shouldn't be done now is absurd. Most of the statues that are being pulled down in terms of the Confederates were built in 1920 or in the 1920s because there was a resurgence of the I don't know if it was ever as large as it was during the 20s, early 20s, of the KKK in this country. And there was an ideology of white supremacy. I mean, you have Confederate statues in many places that have nothing to do with the Confederacy. And the idea that these statues weren't built based upon an ideology of the time, but that they were there as some type of objective representation of history is absurd. It is absurd. And those people who suggest, and they come from various, frankly, sectors of our politics, I've noticed lately. Those people who suggest that this is somehow an attack on history and reality are simply just ignoring the fact, very conveniently, that these were ideological statements.
Oh, I think they know.
Yes, I think they know. But they're pretending that they're not. And they're ideological statements that now our society believes are bad ideologies. And so it's not a question of disappearing the history. In fact, every single person who calls for the pulling down of a Confederate statue, every single person, the vast majority of people who call for that, who call for the renaming of, let's say, military bases or whatever it is, I think would be very, very interested in more of the history being told.
Yep.
More history of that era when you had 6% of the country were card-carrying members of the KKK.
Context.
Or Reconstruction, or Jim Crow. We need more of that history. And I am perfectly on board with the idea of, like, for every one of those statues that comes down, there needs to be another class in their elementary schools, in their junior highs, in their high schools, teaching more of that history. That history should be so explicit. In fact, every single one of those guys whose statue's been turned down, we should know everything about them.
How many slaves did he own?
How many slaves? How many did they use as, basically to rape? How many people were killed in the name of maintaining that economic system of free labor and abused labor and completely commodified human beings? I'm on board for that.
Mm-hmm.
Here is Brian Kilmeade worrying about, I didn't mean to go on that long rant about that, but here is Brian Kilmeade going on to say that it's really wrong to criticize Jefferson for having slaves. This is sort of bizarre construction, but check this out.
Jefferson went into a society where his parents had slaves. Slavery is abhorrent, but it was everywhere on earth, not just in the United States, as some would thought is right. We'll never, ever be able to get our head around how the smartest people on the planet could rationalize this horrible behavior. But the smartest people on the planet gave us the country we're in that allowed us to grow and change and progress, that was built into the Constitution. Right. So you don't wipe them out of history. You don't say they don't matter. You're going to have a history book, social studies, 5th grade. It's going to be nothing but blank pages. But
well, of course that's not going to happen. It's just a question of, the idea that statues are history in and of themselves. No, they are things that are there to express pride, and they are vehicles in which they are commemorating. It's not history. History is learning about these things and learning the good and the bad. Yep. If you had a statue of Jefferson depicted with the viciousness of his slave owning, I don't think people would want to see it, frankly, every day, but maybe they should. But you're not depicting history in that moment. You're venerating somebody without any critical assessment.
Yeah, so that's what's up. Context is everything. And this is not, of course, the first time that society has grappled with its racist past through the lens of monuments, statues, arts, and culture. This very thing was happening after World War II, following the defeat of Nazis in Germany. This is from conversation.com. Some statues need to be removed because of their embodiment of venomous ideologies such as Nazism. For this reason, many symbols of Nazism, such as the big swastika and the Zeppelin-Feld in Nuremberg, were completely destroyed after World War II in Germany. After all, images can work as didactic devices. And to illustrate this, I'm going to show you guys some video footage of a large Nazi swastika monument being destroyed in Germany. Check this out. This is fun. Because we can have fun on this show. Bam. Some idea of fun. All right. Sorry if that triggered some people. Whatever. Oh, you guys like that? Like that. Yeah, so it's important to take a step back and look at how all this fits into the broader picture of arts, culture, politics, and how we decide to design our society. Culture changes are what makes political change possible. Before Brown versus Board of Education, Jackie Robinson made his Major League Baseball debut. 7 years prior, Ellen DeGeneres came out as homosexual on her TV sitcom 8 years before the first favorable court ruling addressing same-sex marriage. Culture is the seed which must be planted before progressive politics can bear fruit. That's why all of this is important. Here's a clip of the highly respected intellectual and political thinker Cornel West and what he has to say about the importance of arts and culture and its relation to political transformation. This is from the Michael Brooks Show. All right. Oh, I forgot to cue this up. Hold on. I am dumb. 1 second. Ask it. All right. Hello.
In a more and more loveless society. What happens in a society that's obsessed with pleasure but has tremendous difficulty gaining access to joy? I mean, these are deep spiritual issues that go hand in hand with the decadence of a late capitalist civilization. And our poets have been talking about this for a long, long time, my brother. The musicians have been talking about this for a long, long time. That's why the artists, and especially musicians, are the vanguard of the species. That's why we live in a moment where we must look very much to our courageous, visionary artists. Now, we've got a whole wave of artists who are just mediocre, who are bad artists, who just sell their souls too. But I'm talking about the deep, genuine artists. And that's been the history of black people. You see, black people, we could never have made it without our art, without our artists, and especially our musicians. They have preserved black dignity and sanity.
Who are you
without
listening
black musicians,
to?
Black people would have been gone a long time ago. I'm listening to Dorothy Love Coates in the gospel tradition, and Curtis Mayfield, who comes out of gospel, but very much is a rhythm and blues brother. I listen to, there's a brother that got a serious single. His name is Jay. What's it? You know who I'm talking about?
Gene.
Jay Carmonica. Jay Hart. God, I can't remember his
Jay
name.
Electronica? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Listen to him. All right.
Oh, yeah. But he got something going on. And he and Jay-Z. Jay-Z's a genius, but I'm critical of a lot of Jay-Z politics. But Jay-Z's art informs me in a very profound and wonderful way. But when it comes to hip-hop,
what about Chronics? You listen to any Chronics?
Siri X and Tef Poe. No, I haven't got too much to Chronic.
Yeah, the Chronics. Chronics is a dope reggae artist. All right, yeah. So that's what's up. The arts and culture matter in social justice movements. That's the point. I'm gonna read some more of these comments on Instagram. Then after that, I'm gonna kill the Instagram feed because we have a limit. And then I'm gonna come right back on. So just come right back on after that. We're gonna be talking Lourans Mikhail. Let's see here. Unsung Art says, I came here for the Johnny Tran cooking show. Tran in the pan, that's what is this art shit? Okay. Yeah, I've been cooking. Lourans Mikhail says, women of the Confederacy were the ones that pushed for so many way after. Very good. Lourans Mikhail says, Harriet Tubman statue. Yeah, I like it. Lourans Mikhail says it was because of religion. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not so sure about that. Lourans Mikhail says pre-Adamite theory. I don't know what that is. Lourans Mikhail says, run that back one more time. He's talking about the Nazi symbol getting blown up. King of Siam says, but what about my house party, bro? Dude. That's a inside joke. I'm not gonna even explain it. Lourans Mikhail says, you need a DJ Khalid air horns playing to that, referring again to the blowing up of the swastika. All right. I'm ending the Instagram feed. Sign back on right after. And then we'll take a break. Then featured interview with Lourans Mikhail. All right. Oh shit, what's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Wait, back to
Alright, yeah. Absolutely, bro. Thank you for inviting me. I feel like we're at a party. We got you, me, we got Del, and someone else. Well,
Toby.
What? Oh, yeah. I don't know why I have to be in the screen to hear you better when I have you Myth Brace. Alright, I'll take over. So, you guys have heard this podcast is brought to you by Comfort Gallery, and we have a GoFundMe set up at comfortgallery@gmail.com, right? I was seriously trying to do it.
It's all good. Hey, I gotta do these quick shout outs real fast before we get started. But I want to let you guys know about the upcoming event from Art Unites Learning. It's called Normal is Overrated. This is what it's about. Our current economic and socio-political environment necessitates a deeper look at our perception of normal. What is normal, and does this normal support our health, happiness, and highest purpose? Join us Tuesday, August 25th, as we ditch unhealthy dominant culture prescriptions for normalcy, which often lead to depression, anxiety, and discontent, and learn life-changing tools for healthy, happy, and purpose-driven living from two SD artists and entrepreneurs, Edmund Rossi and Corey Catt. All right, so what's up, man?
Not much, bro. Just hanging out.
Nice.
Same old. Working on projects.
Excellent. Yeah, so we got local artist Lourans Mikhail with us tonight. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. Yeah, and we were listening to your music all night too. That was great. And we had mentioned you had started a new clothing brand, and it's focused on supporting social justice movements such as Black Lives Matters and more. Can you tell us what the clothing brand is and how it got started? When did it start? Inspiration, etc.
Yeah, so I started true to the roots. I had I had another clothing line, which I'm still in the works of like solidifying the copyright or the trademark for that. So when I had started the other one, I found out someone else had squatted on the other name that I had and was just like just like keeping it there, kind of like how people like squatting on it. So
what were they doing?
Nothing. Like it was just like some regular wingding font. Like it was the most insane, crazy looking thing. Like on a white T-shirt, like that's that big, you know?
Oh, you know what? You know what? I know what. That's my website, bro.
You were in Miami because it was from Miami. So anyway, so I was like, you know what? I always thought of this other name, you know, True to the Roots, and I called it like 3TR. It was kind of like a play on the words, you know, 3 T's and an R, just from like graffiti, like a crew name kind of thing, or like 3M. So I did that, and I always thought about being in the Marines. You know, I did that for 13 years. When I got out, I wanted to help people, and I was trying to think of like what I wanted to do for work. Luckily, I got back into art. And I always wanted to do something like that. You know, I wanted to turn True to the Roots into like some kind of nonprofit or something.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was like, "Oh, you should do it for like veterans, blah blah blah." And I was like, "Yeah, but we already have so much stuff out there." I was like,
That's very true.
And you know, we already went through the process of being taught so many things. And even though like there's huge systematic garbage in the military, which I think goes into the police force, but we'll get into that later, maybe, whatever.
Yeah.
So I wanted to focus like on the source, like where you can kind of change people from the beginning. So I was like, you know what, kids. I was like, but even more so, kids in foster care. You know, and I always thought like kids in foster care, especially older kids, the ones that kind of like are not adoptable because they're older and people are like, oh, they have their own problems, whatever. I wanted to do something where, and you know, I'm still in the works of it, you know, like my trademark's almost done. And then I just got to figure out like, with all the other stuff I'm doing, so it's like, you know, where I have time, I want to do something where I can like, literally if say some kid named Mark wants to go to basketball camp or he loves basketball and he's, you know, 16 years old in foster care, just shuffling through the system, get him some shoes, you know, like a couple of pairs of basketball shoes with like donations, like a YMCA basketball camp or whatever camps they have, you know, depending on where he is, you know, like I said, local is where I'd like to focus because I want to be able to do it like directly from me to the source.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have it funnel through anything else, like through anybody else, because once too many hands touch it, it's like, you know, it's like that one person tells you something in one ear by the time it gets around.
So,
you know.
So the brand, like you posted on this Instagram and you donate to a lot of different causes. Right. Okay. So like I guess how important is a social commentary and political themes to your artistic expression? Like how important is it to you?
I mean, to me,
obviously it's somewhat important.
Yeah. I mean, obviously to me, if you look at a lot of my art, a lot of times like people are like, man, your art's so political. And I'm like, well, it's not really political. Like, even though the people that I'm addressing it to are like politicians or the people in power, it's more social because, you know, again, like both sides to me kind of have, you know, it's like trying to pick the lesser two evils for right now.
Sure. Working on it.
Yeah, I know. So I think it's very important because, you know, like Cornel West, how he was it Cornel West that was saying about how the musicians kept the history?
Yes.
So it's the same thing with art, you know, like if we don't put that out there, you know, they're already not putting it in the books. So we already know that, you know, like we're not learning it in the books.
Right.
So if we're putting it in there with art, you know, and they say a picture says 1,000 words, you can put something in there and people like, you know, everyone has a different interpretation of something. Like they'll look at it and they're like, wow, I see this and that. And you're like, you know, to you, you're like, well, yeah, I just meant to put a mustache on this guy and make his, you know, take his genitals away or something. You know, just something stupid, and people see it in a different way. You know, like my Trump toilet.
The Trump toilet.
Like,
oh man, I should have played. I should have played that. Maybe, yeah, next time, I guess.
Hey, it's all good.
Yeah.
But
tell us about the Trump toilet, please. Tell us.
Yeah.
Best you can.
But, you know, it's important. Like I think.
I wish I had the visual, but tell us about the Trump toilet.
About the Trump toilet. So that one. It was funny because I was still going to school at Art Institute, and I had just like started doing art, you know, getting back into it. I was taking graphic design. That's what I got my degree in, and I just started getting into it from that, you know, like experimenting because I did graffiti before, so that I love doing that. So anyway, so the toilet, and I think it was like a couple of weeks before he made the shithole country comment or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I started painting it, and I was just looking at it, and I was like, you know, I saw the hole. I don't know. I was obviously using the bathroom somehow. I think I was, doing a number one, standing up, because that's what guys do most of the time.
There's a lot of details. That's excellent. I like details.
Hey, we all do it, right? We all do it one way or another. But anyways, and I just thought of like seeing a face there. I think.
So basically, you painted Donald Trump's face in the toilet.
In the toilet, yeah, where his mouth was. I have my phone. Hold on, I'll grab it. I'll play it. I'll show it on my side.
Okay, if you can.
Wherever my phone is, somewhere. Oh, right here. So, anyways, yeah, it had his mouth right there, and then I just around the bowl, I put everything that he said at that time. It was like, Stormy Daniels. I put America KKK hate again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just here we go.
Sorry, only Instagram can see this, guys. But nobody can.
Right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump.
Do
solemnly swear. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute.
I use the same soundtrack. Okay, so he this song, yeah, gold plated, gold toilet on the Hollywood star
Walk of Fame.
in Hollywood Walk of Fame in Hollywood. That's what he's showing us for those who cannot see. And he put it into the Hollywood Star Walk of Fame. People are looking at it like, what the fuck?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, sorry guys on Facebook and Zoom. Not planned for that, but that's I don't know. I'll probably try to show it next week or something. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Like to me, I think it's completely important.
Did anybody talk to you?
Oh yeah, dude. People were like, "Is this yours?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "How'd you get it here?" I'm like, "I just put it there." And they're like, "No one said nothing." I was like, "No." And I was sitting there, and that was literally the day after I had got my drone. Like it had come in just before that, and I was planning it, and then I was like,
you used the drone to shoot the footage, some of the footage, not all of
it. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And it was the day before. It was the weekend before he got impeached, and the day before the Star Wars, whatever the newest Star Wars movie came out. Like that's why they had all those tents right there. And I had no idea about any of this. Like anytime I've taken it places, it always ends up working out to like some weird coincidence.
How many people talked to you about it?
That day, or
yeah, that day.
I mean, I had it at the Little Italy Art Walk.
What was that?
I had it at the Little Italy Art Walk the first time. Like, yeah, in front of the Mexican consulate. Like, we were across the street at one point, and my friend Ali, big Jamaican dude, straight from Jamaica, he's like, bro, and he points over and he like points. He's like, look, and we look over the tents because it was the art walk. We just literally put it on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it was the Mexican council or the consulate, whatever's down there in Little Italy. And he was like, look at that. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Let's go move it. We picked it up, moved it on that side. And there was like 200 people that day. I mean, people were like leaving the tents to come. And I was like, I kind of felt bad. But even the artists there were like, oh my God, everyone told me to come see this.
Really?
And there was like two people that got upset.
Yeah. What did they say?
One lady was like walking past. She's like, "What are you gonna do when he gets the Nobel Peace Prize?" And I was like, "For what?" And he's like, "North Korea." He's like, "North Korea," and I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah, that's not going so well, by the way.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. And even with that, it's like, even if something came about, like Obama didn't kill bin Laden, like other people, you know what I'm saying? Like they always think one person does it. I'm like, no.
Oh, I see what you see. Yeah.
So anyway, and one other lady was like looking at it. She was like, I'm a Trump supporter. She's like, but I think that's funny. And she was like looking at it. And then I was like, wait, there's more. It's like a stinky onion. You got to peel back the layers. and I put the toilet seat lid down, which had the seal of the president of the U.S. And as soon as she saw that, she flipped her shit. She was like, "Oh my god!"
His face in the toilet.
Yeah, and this is what she said. She was like, "Is that the seal of the United States?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "No, that's the seal of the president of the United States." And she's like, "That's so disrespectful." I was like, "So his face in a toilet eating a piece of shit didn't bother you?" I was like, that was the line.
That's super patriotic,
though. Anyways, it's been like, and surprisingly, I mean, I never put it in Santee or like during the rodeo, but
are you crazy?
But surprisingly, I've had like
I dare you to
everyone's
do
loved
that.
it.
I dare you to put it in Santee.
Oh, dude, it's gone now.
Oh, it's gone. Okay. All right. Oh, well.
Yeah, the Walk of Fame was the last hurrah.
You just left it there?
Yeah, I left it, and it was kind of good. It felt like I let go of the energy, and then he got impeached, even though he didn't get removed.
That's pretty funny. Did you actually use the toilet ever?
That toilet or a toilet?
That toilet. Wash your hands.
No.
Wash your hands.
No.
Okay.
No, I actually got it off of Craigslist. Because when I thought of the idea, I was like, I wonder, there's got to be a free toilet somewhere. And I went and found it.
Was it used?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it was cleaned out. I mean, trust me. Like,
it's disgusting.
I sprayed a hose in there for like, I don't know how long.
Yeah, this is a pre-coronavirus outbreak. Maybe, I mean, I don't know what that means. But all right,
yeah,
so
the new swine flu.
Besides toilets, what other mediums do you usually work in?
Yeah, I mean, spray paint, like I do murals.
Okay.
I do paint. That's the second oil painting. The Kobe was the first one.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, clay paint, wood.
Assemblage stuff too, right? Like collage assemblage.
Yeah, like digital, like Photoshop, Illustrator. I mean, I've kind of minus like a lot of the mashups that I do with like the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I haven't really used Illustrator that much. So my pen's the day.
Okay. Yeah. How did you start like making art? When did you start? What were the origins? If there is any.
Okay. So I did art as a kid, and I know everyone always says that. I mean, everyone did, because that was like the first class you took, because you couldn't do anything else, right?
Well, I'm sure not everybody did art as a kid, but most artists that are artists now probably did art as a kid, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah, semantics.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did it up until like, I want to say 18. I got into graffiti a lot. I was in Chicago. That's where I was raised. And lo and behold, they defunded the schools. And guess what always gets taken away? Art. So art was getting taken away. And at this time too, in like,
what year?
I want to say 94, probably like 98, around there, because I graduated high school 98. So I want to say like 96, I think, because I remember like even gym class, like PE, they started saying it wasn't necessary for kids anymore. And I'm like, we're facing it.
You may need your body, but I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, that got me into graffiti, because obviously there wasn't like art classes. There was no music classes either.
Wow.
So graffiti was the only thing I would see.
What city was this?
Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, like right in the city. Yeah. So like Diversity Austin, Northwest Side. Yeah. So then I joined the Marine Corps, and kind of everything died and kind of like slowed down to a complete halt or stall. The only thing I ever really did in between there, I did one mural in Iraq in our shop.
How in your shop, what was
Yeah,
that?
like we were on the air base, Al Assad Air Base, and we obviously took over that base, or we didn't take it over, but it was the Iraqi National Guard or whatever they're called now, Republican Guard, whatever.
You're just crashing for the night.
What's that?
You're just crashing.
Yeah, exactly.
Spending the
yeah,
night.
for 6 months at a
Slumber
time.
party. Just a slumber party.
So yeah, so there, and never really did much else. Like the only thing I did, I would
Okay.
Photoshop stuff. I would like
What did you
Photoshop
paint?
people's faces
What did you
on
what did
movie
you paint?
posters.
What did you paint in Iraq? Like what was on that mural?
It was literally our shop, quality assurance. It was
Oh,
just
okay.
like graffiti letters. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they weren't going to
Functional.
let us do anything.
Oh,
it was just
okay.
like shittiest government aircraft paint.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always laugh when people sell something and they're like, "This is military grade." I'm like, no thanks.
For paint.
For a lot of things.
Even
Let's
guns?
be honest.
Even guns? They get the guns
Yeah,
right.
'cause
They get the guns right.
look,
Come on, they get the guns. They get the nuclear bombs right.
Every military contract is sold to the highest, lowest bidder. So if you bid something for like, you know what I'm saying? Like everyone's bidding for this and they'll pick the lowest bidder. So like we literally had like one aluminum screw. It was like a regular screw that went in a probe, which refuels, like extends, did nothing for the aircraft. That screw alone, I had him look up the price. It was like $287.
Damn.
And like,
For
there's
that
just so much waste
money,
there.
for that much money, most people, not me, but
Home
most
Depot.
people would probably pay more, pay that much for a different kind of screw. Just
Anyways, so yeah, so the journey, right? So I get out of the Marine Corps. I had no idea what I was going to do. I was working on North Island, and then I was actually looking at being a nurse. I was actually looking at being a respiratory nurse because my girlfriend at the time was a nurse, and I was like, you know what? I can watch the goriest movies on TV, but I can't do it on like normal people. I was like, if I see a human being looking like hurt, I can't see it. But animals I can help, but when I see a human, it kind of I see myself in that situation. So it's kind of like
so no nursing.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. No.
Like
when someone stubs their toe, you're like, ow. Same thing. It's kind of like, ugh. Anyways, so
it's called
thankfully,
empathy. It's called empathy. Some people don't have that apparently nowadays.
Yeah, empathy, which I lost a lot of it in the Marine Corps,
damn,
and it's taken me.
That's fucked
Hey,
up.
it's true though. It's true. Like people don't want to admit that. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, actually a couple of weeks ago, and he was like, man, I started talking to someone and I felt bad for what they were going through. And I was like, yeah, bro, that's called empathy. And he's like, and this was like the most serious thing, like we were having a serious conversation. He's like, yeah. And then I was talking, his counselor, and he was like, yeah, she was telling me the same thing. He's like, it felt so good to feel that. He's like, because I was like, yeah, I was like,
that's real. That's real shit.
It's true, because we're taught so much not to pay attention to that, like that it's weakness, like surrender is weakness. And I honestly think it's like the ocean. If you try to fight the ocean, you're gonna drown. If you try to fight your emotions, the word ocean is in there. Emotion.
Damn.
You're gonna drown, like in all honesty. And I think like opening up for that, empathy helps. So anyways, so I joined school at Art Institute, and I was taking graphic design because again I had thought of True to the Roots like back in 2011 when I was in the Marines, and I had another clothing line that I did before that. I think like in 2009, the one that got squatted on. So I was like, you know what, I'll do that. I like I was like, I'll do that. I like the graphic design. That'd be pretty cool. Like do T-shirts again. So doing that, I started taking typography, and like seeing how typography was used, like regular type, like Helvetica, Times New Roman, all this stuff that you don't pay attention to until you start taking this stuff. You know, like unless you type, you only know like Times, Arial, and the regular ones, you know, whatever they are.
I'm a writer.
No
I know
Comic
all
Sans.
about that shit, bro. Aerial, Times New Roman. AP style only, by the way, but continue.
So that kind of brought me back to graffiti, because seeing how letters were used and manipulated, I was like, that's the same thing graffiti does. And like seeing the history of it, I was like, calligraphy, like I started seeing how words were coming out from like calligraphy, like just seeing the links between them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of like the etymology or the building of the word, of the letter, you know?
Of the letter, yeah.
So
I don't think etymology is the word, but
no, I know.
something else.
But you know, etymology is
that's super interesting.
how word
That's
came.
super interesting.
So I'm just saying the letter.
Yes. It's super interesting.
But yeah, so that, doing that, and I was like, my teachers, a lot of my teachers, the good ones, a few good ones I had there, would tell people like, hey, learn how to draw. They're like, don't just take something from the internet, copy and paste.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that makes so much sense, you know, because it's easier to just take something, vectorize it, and then you're like, yeah, I designed this. And
Right.
I was like, you know, nothing against anybody that does whatever they need to do to get wherever they're going.
Right.
As long as you evolve.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I want to be able to do whatever it is I want to do. Like if that image doesn't exist, if I can't find it, if it's just here, I want to be able to make it, you know? And that was the thing I always had like a mental block with before. I could always draw like cartoons. Like if I saw a cartoon character or anything animated, like comic books, I could draw it. But when it came to, besides letters, when it came to drawing like a character or something realistic, terrible.
Right.
And then I started realizing the more I was negative, like the way I approached things mentally and the way I spoke about myself, that started putting those limits on me. You know, so coming out of the military, we're talking about empathy, we're talking about all this stuff. And then just figuring out the words I use, like the power of words, like, you know, everything we're talking about, like, you know, Black Lives Matter. Oh, people want to cry about it because it hurts them, you know? So these words and other barriers that I put up and the way I was talking about myself or my skills stopped me from a lot. So like, as soon as I did that, like my first graphite drawing of a woman I drew, because like I started drawing, you know, taking all on this process, started taking perspective drawing, life drawing. And actually that's where you and I met, was a thumbprint at Basic Bar at a life drawing class.
Oh, at the life drawing meetup, not a class.
Yeah. Or yeah,
Nice.
not a class, but the meetup.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally don't remember any of that. That's fine.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I don't remember any of that.
I wonder why.
Me too.
Anyways, so yeah, so doing all that.
Cheers to that.
Hey, cheers. I got water. So yeah, so doing that, I just started seeing how once you know, it sounds stupid because you hear it all the time. Once you put your mind to it, you were able to do it. And I was like, all it took was time.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone sees someone and they're like, you know, they'll see an Instagram video and it'll be time lapse and they'll be like, wow, he just drew something in 15 seconds. And it's not realistic because that guy probably took 8 hours, 10 hours, you know. So people aren't seeing the journey. They miss that.
Or years to perfect the skill.
Yeah. So I started doing that more and more. And then, you know, I finished graphic design. And one of my friends, Joseph Mustin, who's a photographer here in San Diego. He's a Freebase Photos, black photographer. Check him out.
Okay.
He had a show called The Wall, where it's like a pop-up art event, like at different venues. Like, I think he had one at, I forget the name, El Camino Bar.
Yeah.
In everything I call downtown.
Downtown
somewhere.
It's not downtown, bro. What the fuck, dude? Little Italy.
I don't
even
remember where it is.
Even from here? Continue.
No, I'm not. So yeah, so he started doing those, and I, you know, and again at this time I was still doubting myself about painting, and I was kind of like doing some stuff on canvases, and people, you know, like close friends were like, man, that's amazing. They're like, you never did anything like that. And, you know, it always feels like that. Like, you know, family, friends are always going to be like, wow, yeah. But then I started hearing other people say it. Now, you know, slowly building confidence. So I did those shows. And then I think I did a Raw show, which nothing against them, but I kind of think they, you know, it is what it is. Anyways.
Not for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Did those, and then I think I started doing more pop-up shows here in San Diego.
Nice.
And, you know, I got my degree, and I still had, I finished my school in like 2.5 years. So I still had GI Bill left. So I was like, well, I might as well keep going to school. I'm getting paid for it. I was like, all I have to do is go to school, literally. I was like, it's easy, you know?
Yeah. So,
And that's
so the GI Bill, you went to school at Mesa College, right?
Yeah, I went to Art Institute first for my graphic design degree, my bachelor's, and I got it just before they closed, like before they found out of that scandal where they were like taking people's money, and they even said I owed them money when I was on the GI Bill, and I never failed any class, never missed any payments, but it was because they took some money from like the Yellow Ribbon program and never gave it back. And then the government was like, hey, that wasn't yours. So they tried blaming me for the money. I was like, nope. I was like, you guys actually owed me money. Anyways, so yes, I finished that, went to Mesa, and I started taking ceramics in Mesa because I wanted to get into sculpting because, like I said, I started doing like not hyper realistic, but I started wanting to work towards stuff like that because I thought that was really amazing to be able to recreate that. So I was like, all right, I know I can draw it and get better at drawing it. I was like, I want to be able to actually like make it. I was so like to be able like to create something. Like 2D is amazing. I love it. Nothing against it. But then 3D was, you know, it's, I mean, plain and simple, another number, another dimension, you know, so it's like, so to be able to do that, it's just like another complexity because you draw a face, you're trying to make this part round where you're trying to sculpt something, you know, you got to make the whole thing symmetrical to a point. So, so I started getting into sculpting. I did my first
what's up with
ceramic.
4D, bro? 4D.
What's the what?
4D.
4D? The audio. I'm going to start making them and I'm going to put beats playing out of them.
Well, you.
So, yeah, so, you know, like
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
No, so I was saying, I started sculpting and I was taking the ceramics class. I was throwing. My instructor, Brian Benfer, an amazing guy. He's awesome too. Still helps me to this day. He, you know, I was like, hey, you know, I like throwing on the wheel. I definitely want to learn that. I'm like, but I want to sculpt. I'm like, is it okay if I sculpt?
What is
He's like, yeah, go ahead.
Throwing?
You know, so
what is throwing? Throwing?
Throwing is like on the wheel, like Ghost, the scene with Ghost, where she's on the wheel and you're just pulling the clay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's just a wheel that spins. You throw a ball on there and you pull it up.
You're dating yourself, by the way. And okay, I haven't seen that in a while.
Hey, everyone, if you don't like the Righteous Brothers, Unchained Melody.
Yeah, dude, that's the shit right there. That is the shit right there. That's a great song.
Yeah, so.
That's a great,
yeah. So I really wanted to do that, and he encouraged it. Even though it wasn't like a sculpture class, you know, I would have questions every now and then, and he'd help me. So, and again, like with a lot of my art, you know, hip hop was a big thing with me growing up in Chicago. So like, you know, rap, you know, I got it. That was one of the first things I did was actually rapping. That's why I made beats originally back then before I joined the Marines, because I was like, well, I'm not going to pay someone to make beats for me if I can make them myself. I was like, because if beat makers are making money, I was like, guys, right? Why should I give money to someone else? Yeah.
Just
so,
joking,
you know, I love
just
breaking.
Joking beat makers. We're just fucking around, just chill
out. Yeah, and I love break. I love breaking. I got into that for a little bit, and I was never really that good. Or I didn't practice enough.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyways. So with hip hop culture being so influential to me, and then like, you know, I'm a Syrian. I was born in Baghdad, Iraq. Okay. I was in the military. I heard all kinds of stupid shit.
Mhm.
And it's funny. Anyways, so I was, nobody knew what a Syrian was. So I was always sitting there like trying to explain to people what we were, always getting confused with Syrian and Syria. And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's this. It's biblical times. They're like, oh, so how are you guys still around if you don't have a country? So these were like
Because
some
if
of
you
the
don't have a
funniest.
country, immediately you just disappear in the dust, obviously.
Yeah, you're like a relic. You're like an ancient, like people be like, oh, you're an ancient person. And I'm like,
You must be
like, what does
thousands
that
of
mean?
years old.
So
What is your
so this
diet?
Is the shit, yeah, so this is the shit.
What's your exercise
This is the
regimen?
stuff that people say. And, and this is the thing they try to normalize. And for a while, I let them normalize it because they're like, well, I don't mean it that way. And I'm like, just because you don't mean something some way doesn't mean the other person isn't offended. And I think that's where people take offense because nobody feels good with feeling shame now anymore, I think. Like a lot of people are like, well, I don't do anything. And it's like, yeah, all do,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all subconscious.
So yeah, I don't know where I segued off on there. Oh,
No, that's perfect. I'll get you back on track.
All right.
So you talked about hip hop. And
yeah. Oh, so
making
so
rap,
I wanted to represent
making rap music, whatever. You
I
also
want to represent.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I want to represent the underrepresented, and especially now, like I have two daughters. I was raising my oldest, Trinity, for 13 years, and that was like another thing that helped me like just transform my mentality. Like I said, in all honesty, when I look at it and I tell people, I'm like, I wasn't a bad person, but I wasn't a good person either. And I think that's where a lot of people are like in the, in the police and everything. They're like, oh, there's good cops. And I was like, they might not be bad cops, but I don't think they're good cops either. Because there was so much shit I saw that eventually, like I said, after time, because people would be like, oh, stop being a bitch. It's just a joke, blah, blah, blah. We're all just fucking around with you. So you tend to normalize it because then you're kind of ostracized if you talk about it, So raising my daughter, and then what was it, like around 2017 where they started the Me Too movement, and like before that they were talking about all this stuff. There was the changes. Yeah. And like a lot of the weirdest things, talking about too much information. Like when my daughter was growing up 2 years old, like trying to potty train her, obviously I couldn't do it standing up because kids learn by looking, So I had to sit down and pee so she could learn and duplicate what I was doing. So I had that for so long that I forgot, like eventually after she learned, I kept on sitting down to pee. So anyway, so going back to normalizing this thing, just seeing all this stuff with my daughter, and then like, she had her period, which people are always like, oh, you shouldn't talk about it. And I'm like, why? It's the same thing that anybody else goes through, that guys go through. I was like, but it's not normalized, and I was so happy when she told me. I was like, oh my God, are you okay? Do you need anything? Are you like, I was because I was Googling everything because I never had one, so I have no idea what to do.
Right.
So knowing all this stuff, I just wanted to show her, because I was like, what's she seeing right now? I was like, she sees all these magazines. So graphic design, learning like advertising and how psychology works with that and how they manipulate people. Edward Bernays, if you ever look him up, check him out.
Okay.
Crazy.
All right.
So all this stuff with that, I'm like, I would always tell her, I was like, hey, don't look at makeup a certain way. I was like, I don't care if you wear it. I was like, it's just pay attention to how they're trying to portray it and the words they use. It's like, be a better you, or more beautiful you, or like all this stuff to make it seem like you're not enough, where they psychologically mess with you, and also showing like white women and everything. And I would tell her this. I was like, this is not what it is. So a lot of the stuff I started doing, like one of the first paintings I did was Asada Shakur.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and with that, I'm like, that's what I want to represent. And I'm in Ramona, and I had to do a utility box, and all the murals here.
Paint a utility box, you're saying? He's breaking up. You breaking up?
All team.
I'm sorry.
A black woman with an afro.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
You're breaking up a little.
All good.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. So you're painting a utility box.
Good. All right.
Asada Shakur, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to represent. Yeah. So it's pretty much based off of that. I painted a woman with the afro and the big hoop earrings, kind of like symbolic to hers, where she was sitting on the wicker chair. And I always loved that image, because that image is played so much throughout hip hop, like Public Enemy,
right.
Dead Presidents, Dead Prez.
I was just bumping Dead Prez. I was just bumping that.
Yeah, man, it's like the thing to play now. That and Run the Jewels.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well,
Run the Jewels.
Think
I
of
knew
the song.
Dead Prez. Really? People were bumping that.
Think of the songs that they have.
I know the songs.
I'm talking about me.
Oh, you're talking about you. I thought you were saying it was like catching on or something. Like it's on the radio. It's on the radio, really? No, I don't think so.
Still relevant,
No, it's super relevant. It's more relevant than a lot of other shit.
Yeah. So that's what I want to do. So a lot of my stuff, and I started looking at it, is I paint a lot of women, like that one I'm painting. It's a Playboy model, but she's a full-figured model, and I hope I don't say the wrong thing, because words change, so I'm not trying to say the wrong thing. I know all sizes, or and that's that's another thing, like weight, skin color, like how people bleach their skin in different parts of the world blows my mind. So and another thing too, like how we were talking about everything in the history of statues and how they're saying we're trying to erase history. It's always funny how and they talked about appropriation. The same thing goes with art, along with like clothes and everything. Anytime you see something that's like ethnic, it's always done by a white artist. Majority of the time is what it seems like to me. And I'm not saying all the time, but whereas like if I had wanted to put like some Assyrian symbols from somewhere, I get told no a lot. And I feel it's like because it's not something that's American, and I start explaining to them, and they don't know what it is, So it's not like Egyptian, it kind of looks like that, and people just kind of sway away from that. So, that's what I want to do, just that's why I got into sculpting, because I was like, there's too many white faces as sculptures, and I was like, canvases aren't going to last. Like, let's say we get hit by a meteor and a bunch of people die. And there's still like a small group left. They forget everything. Life evolves another day. I hope they find like these sculptures of like faces that are different people, like not just white people like David. And they're like, oh my God, look at these beautiful people, white Jesus.
Yeah. You want to leave your mark.
Yeah. But, it won't even be mine, because they won't know. But I'm just saying, like, again, going back to that, like history is being written by art, because they won't let us control the books for anything else.
Right. We were just talking about that. Yeah, so making your mark, showing your art, putting out your creativity into the public. You've done that in San Diego a lot, shows and whatnot. But you also you did show a lot in Los Angeles before this pandemic. But what do you see are the differences between San Diego art scene and the LA art scene?
And
I was gonna ask.
We talk about this a lot, so
I gotta get this in before it's over.
Yeah, honestly, like
we are recording this, by the way.
Being from Chicago, I saw how the culture is over there. Obviously I wasn't into the art scene there, like the gallery art scene.
Sure, yeah.
Then coming here, like San Diego holds a special place for me, because I've been here since 2008. so 12 years now almost of my adult life. So, and I started art here. So it means a lot to me because a lot of people I know that got me into art are from here. The only thing I think that's weird about the LA and San Diego art scene, I think LA is more open to a lot more names. It's like, because there's so much going on there that you can apply to a lot of places. And even if you're not like this, you know, influencer or established artist, whatever you want to call it, you have a chance to be among them, you know. Where here, I feel like a lot of the galleries, you know, minus Thumbprint, obviously, which is what we're sponsored by today.
By the way,
but, no, but for real. Anyways, a lot of the art scene here, I feel like, and it's not even the art scene. I think it's just the people. I think, number one, because you have so much military. So a lot of them come from different places. You know, Texas is a big place for the military. Yeah. And so you have a lot of that, and it's very conservative. Like, people think San Diego, you know, California is a different way, but I really think San Diego's weird. Like, it doesn't look toward a lot of change. Like, a lot of stuff is like, hey, we'll keep it nice and beachy, touristy, and, you know, we're all about chill vibes. Where LA is kind of like fast paced. It reminds me a lot, now that I'm into art, of Chicago, where it's like everything's kind of like go, go, go. And I think a lot of people get turned off by that because it seems like it's unfriendly, but I don't think it is. It's just like, if you don't ask, if you don't speak up, no one knows like you're in distress, because everyone's focused on doing something. They have their hustle.
Yeah, people are making moves in LA compared. I mean, in comparison, you can't say it for everybody, but yeah, people are making moves in LA. There's a lot of competition. You got to be on your game. You know, you can't. You can't just dial it in and just, I don't know, like
chill.
Like sign up for an art show and not show up or whatever. Because there's a million motherfuckers out there.
Yeah, and it's just funny because it's like that saying where it's like, closed mouths don't eat. You know, if you don't open up your mouth, no one knows. You know, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink, all that stuff. I don't think there's that much difference. Like, I think a lot of the talent in San Diego is amazing, but I think the support is not there enough. Where, you know, like, the city doesn't support public art projects enough,
which we always talk about on this episode, on this podcast.
You know, like, you go to LA and you see like there's a lot of graffiti, and that's, to me, that's fine. It's whatever. You know, I'm all for it, but there's so many murals. Like, stores will let people come up there and, you know, just do their own, like, wild style pieces and put them up, burners, whatever. They'll let them do that because that stops other people from doing graffiti, because you have something that actually looks amazing and someone took time doing. And, you know, minus the toys, the people that don't know the rules, they're the only ones that are going to go over it. Majority of the people are like, no, that's so and so, or yeah, that's a badass piece, whatever. So yeah, so I think that's a lot of the difference. And even going to Miami, like, you know, Wynwood, like, going there for Miami Art Week this last year before all this stuff shut down, I was blown away by how many murals were there. Now a lot of it is bigger name artists, because, you know, they're kind of like trying to draw people in for that. You know, what's that, Goldman Arts or Globman Arts, whatever. So I think that's the biggest thing, man. Is like, the talent here is amazing. You know, you have NC Winters, you have Persuade, you have OG Mike Giants here now, you have Spencer Little, you have Carly Ely, you know, all these people. And there's so much talent here. But even for like graphic design is the same thing. You hear it all the time. If you want a job, go to LA. Because here it's like, it's oversaturated. Nobody really values art again, you know, because the city doesn't value it, so they don't see it. So, you know, what you don't see is what you don't care about.
Right.
So yeah, so.
Well, maybe the pandemic will reset a chessboard and we can start anew. I don't know. to be optimistic.
Hopefully. Dude, we got the money back, right, in San Diego? Didn't they like refund some program or something?
I'm not
Or
sure.
am I thinking of something
Yeah,
else?
I'm not
All
sure
right,
what
yeah.
you mean. I don't think so. I think San Diego's pretty fucking broke. The state of California is pretty broke right now because of the pandemic.
Like, don't hold your breath.
Yeah, although fiscally, the state of California was the most prepared of all the states. But yeah, man. Thank you so much for coming on the Creative Buzz podcast. We hope to have you back. And is there any other message or any projects you have coming up you want people to know, or anything at all? You know.
Yes, actually, and first off, thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, man.
And currently, right now, until tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pacific time. Just kidding, Pacific time. 9 p.m. Pacific time. I have one of my sculptures up for auction. It's a $1 bid minimum, and I think the bid right now, last time I checked, was at 100. So you can come in and bid 101, and it's yours.
Good.
Yeah, and if you're San Diego or LA area, I can drop it off. Otherwise, you'd have to pay for shipping. But yeah, and all proceeds are going to Black Lives Matter San Diego for that one.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, man. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon. Hope you come back.
All right, brother. Take care, bro.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming by the Creative Buzz podcast. Do this every Wednesday. I want to drop a couple more shout outs real fast. The Spring 2020 Online Student Art Exhibition at Mesa College, virtual showcase of student artwork going on now. So check that out. Also, consider making a donation to our sponsor, Thumbprint Gallery. Our PayPal is info@thumbprintgallery.com. Venmo is at Thumbprint Gallery. Check out the current online art exhibition, The Complexity of Life Solo Art Show by Carla Miranda. We'll be here next Wednesday. I don't know what we're going to talk about next Wednesday yet. I have some ideas, but I'm not exactly sure. Also, at 8 p.m. on the podcast, I'll be premiering my second solo album called The Great De-Equalizer. Yeah, on this podcast. So feel free to check in. Zoom and Facebook will sound better, but it's totally up to you. All right, guys. I'll see you next week. Gonna leave you with some more of music from Lou Campanella, aka Lourans Mikhail.